you know, that should be something that's openly accessible to everybody. But if it's not, I know that you have a new video series. And as soon as you were talking about that on Isometric, I said, ooh, I think that's something that I want to get into. So why don't you inform the Chromatic community a little bit about those videos?
Yeah, so what I do during my day job is I work for the Montreal Centre for Anxiety and Depression, and we're a specialty clinic that deals with those issues and all of its precursor issues. I used to be a generalist before that, and I dealt with a little bit of everything. But there's so many people that, because of the stigma, would not want to go to see a therapist, or because they don't have access to it in certain parts of the world, there aren't really access to therapists that they can get and get help. And anxiety and depression, they just suck away happiness and the things that you feel comfortable doing with your life. And so for people that might be worried about the stigma of it, people that might have social anxiety or, you know, agoraphobia, they don't want to leave their home, they feel uncomfortable meeting with someone. It's a really uncomfortable thing. I think that I would have a hard time. Well, now I know therapists that I would feel comfortable with, but it's a hard time the first time that you're going to kind of unfurl your soul in front of someone else and worry, are they going to judge me? What are they thinking? Are they going to be good? Are they going to be able to help me? And so we launched a video series that you can just download, a digital download that you can download, and it goes through the sessions. So we have session 1, 2, and a sleep series. And we're going to go through what myself and Sandra Reish, who's like one of the most phenomenally amazing therapists out there. I would go to her in a heartbeat. She is so good, so accurate, but so real. Like, she's not someone that, you know, is saying that I'm better than you or that I know all the answers, or that she's just someone that she's like, I've been through it, I understand, I know. And she has like the biggest heart and the most empathy. She really loves people. And so we've gotten together and we've done this DVD of like, what would be for session 1? What do we usually do for session 1 when someone comes in? And then what would you do for session 2? And we give, which, you know, Dave says I shouldn't call homework, but we give home study for you to take to deal with. And then you can do the next session, and we kind of go through it like that. And so you have a little piece of us to kind of take for home, and we go through it like that to be able to reach more people. And so we've been able to reach people from Japan, Saudi Arabia, you know, all over the world, which is really like wonderful. And so hopefully this has been able to help people. It's not the cheapest of things. It's not as expensive as it would be to see us privately, but it's not also not cheap. So pricing, I know some people are like, that's kind of expensive. And for other people, they're like, that's kind of cheap. So it depends on where you live in the world about pricing. Yeah. But we thought it would be fair in comparison to a session seeing us, and people have had some really nice feedback from that.
And I think, you know, as much as it's nice to sit down with someone, you know, I've gone to someone since I was I was 10 the first time I saw a therapist. And when my parents got divorced, my mom wanted me to go to make sure, you know, I was okay and everything.
Yeah.
But from a standpoint of, you know, looking at things like recently, a book that helped my wife and I, you know, we both have anxiety, but that helped us in our relationship even was The 5 Love Languages by Dr. Gary Chapman. I don't know if you've ever read it or not.
Yes.
But a lot of things that we would do, and, you know, I would conceive as one thing and she would see as the other. We knew all the parts. We just didn't know how to put them together sometimes. Right? So once that happened, now we use different languages with each other, and even like saying like, oh, I can tell your love tank's a little low. How do, you know, is this bothering you? Is that bothering you? You know, opening things up a little bit.
Nice.
So I think something like the videos, even though people might think they're overpriced at first, those little pieces, those little nuggets of information or whatever it may be, sometimes unlock what you already know inside you, just not sure how to put it.
Yeah, and it's, you can go back to it and you can rewatch it and then kind of absorb different pieces to it. Mm-hmm. And so for a lot of people, we use it as like an adjunct. So instead of going in for me to deal if they're not sleeping well, you know, instead of me going through it, you can just get the sleep DVD and then people can walk through that. And then in session, we can say, well, what pieces do you understand? What parts are difficult to you? And speak it into a language that you feel comfortable with if it wasn't already. And so we think that that's also a nice way to go through it. But I love that you knew, like, you were able to actually apply the knowledge in your day-to-day life and actually ask your wife and hear her and be able to validate, okay, you know, I see that something's happening, and be able, instead of being defensive, which is usually our first reaction when someone else feels bad, we're like, well, why I didn't do it. You know, it wasn't me. That's usually our first reaction.
Yeah.
But to be able to actually say, I'm here for you. I get it.
Yeah, I have a
I
problem
definitely
with,
need this.
yeah, I have a problem with, that's my thing, defensiveness, like in general, like everything like is attacking me, so I kind of like project it outwards. Like, what do you mean? I did this, this, and this.
Right.
What's the matter that I didn't do
Right.
this one thing, even though it's like not the point and everything else. It's just kind of, you know, what I've learned through my parents, you know, watching them growing up. So there's a lot of stuff you learn more than you actually, it's not as much of a problem with you as much as you learn it to be a problem.
It does. We learn through, like, if you had, like, parents that had great communicative skills and had a huge amount of emotional intelligence, and, you know, we're lucky, you know, then you're lucky that you will probably have a lot of those skills yourself. But it's probably one of the most important things in, you know, how do we deal with boundaries, consequences, conflict, discussions, all of these things. And we actually are not taught this in school, which is a huge sadness. Mm-hmm. Because it's so essential for us because we're going to then bring it on to the next generation without knowing it. It's not really what you say, it's what you do and the manner in which you interact. And I remember myself hearing my child getting snippy with a waiter at one point. And I hate that. That I find is exceptionally rude. And I thought, and I had to go, where is he getting this? And I'm like, you know what? I can be sarcastic. Like, I'm from, like, my parents are, like, I'm half Scottish. And so we are just naturally kind of sarcastic and snippy. And I'll say, like, you know, they don't get, like, they asked me to get them the milk. And I'm like, what happened to your legs? Like, which I think is funny, but it's sarcastic and snippy. And I had to, like, really honestly take a good reflection. I said, you know what? It's coming from me. This one's mine. And so if I really want them to be different, I have to be, if I want them to be slightly polite, I have to be infinitely polite with them. And so we always have to kind of check back, are we being too reactive? Are we being too loud? If they're doing it, it's coming from us. And it made a huge difference. It made a huge difference. How did we stop our children from screaming in the house? My husband and I stopped, and he's Italian. So, like, you know, that's how we had to do it. It was hard. That's just culturally, they're passionate people. So we stopped it, and then they, by fall through, actually did as well, which was kind of cool. So we put on our wall, we actually had, like, you know, no yelling. It was written, we stuck it on a piece of paper for us, not for the kids. Yeah. Just to keep on reminding us day at a time.
That's interesting because, like, for me, I had the added layer of, you know, therapy and mental health, that's some white folks bullshit. I mean, that's what my mom grew up with.
Right, and, you know, right.
Because, you know, and I don't want to get too deep into it and wind up psychoanalyzing myself on the show. But hey, you're here, so it happens.
Why not?
But my grandmother passed. This is now the 11th year since she passed it. Oh my God, it actually, the day passed and I didn't, like, remember it. But it's been 11 years. Huh. And my mom never dealt with her grief over my grandfather's passing because he passed, like, before I was born. Mm. And there was, like, this was the first major loss in my life.
Right.
And so trying to deal with that grief, and I actually went to grief counseling and eventually had gone to therapy because I had it was a hard road to get to therapy.
Yes.
And accepting that I needed therapy.
Yeah. Right.
But I think especially in Black communities and minority communities, there's that added layer of that's not for us. And I don't know if you get that a lot in Canada, but there's this kind of, you know, we're okay, or, you know, in some cases, the church will work it out, which, you know, me and the Black church, we split up. We had to go our separate ways many, many moons ago. But I just think it's interesting when, you know, when Matt, you were talking and Georgia, you were talking, is that, you know, a lot of people don't think about that added layer of, if you go to a therapist and you talk about, there's still that added layer of shame.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. Which is so unfortunate. We really, it's so strange because we treat the brain, and this is just, it's just culturally brought down that, you know, that if something that you're not dealing with right, or you're not coping well, that there's something wrong with you, which is strange because we don't do that with any other part of the body, right? So my thyroid, my thyroid slowly died out, and so I take medication for my thyroid. Now, because my thyroid, though it deals with emotions, it deals with being tired or being peppy, being down, it deals with all kinds of things. If it's too high, you'll be very anxious. If it's too low, you could have what would seem like depression. But because it's located in my throat, no one will judge me for that. if it had to be located like here, then people would suddenly judge me. And so people treat the brain as a completely different entity than the rest of the body. We even, you know, everyone goes once a year to see a doctor, but people wouldn't go once a year to see a therapist, which is, it's really strange. It is a machine just like anything else. And it's really like just about like if I had a problem with dealing with my children, you know, I should go to see someone. It's like I wouldn't try to fix my car myself because I have no skill in that if it wasn't working right. And so why mull through it when you could go to someone that might give you better tools?